It's going to go
Great.
live here any second, and you can click that you got it, and you can click
Yep.
share, all that good
How
stuff.
do I do that?
So it's on my Facebook page.
Oh, I don't
and
know.
then you can just go there and click share if you will.
I don't know how to do that. Hang on.
That's okay. I'll send it to you after. Don't worry.
Okay, send it to me after. We'll do it.
Sounds great. All right, let's see if I can punch the right buttons and get back to you. Facebook people, let's get right to it today. We are so lucky. We have a legend here in the business. Oh my goodness sakes, there's not enough good people. People have said so many wonderful things, just expecting Larry Amoros to come on today. And he's a writer, a producer. He's done stand-up way back when.
Yeah, way back when.
Yes, let's get right to it. Say hello to the world traveled, the world acclaimed, the established, amazingly talented, funniest man in America, as Joy Behar said, Larry Amoros, you guys.
Hey, hello everybody. Hello. Sitting here in my home office in Palm Springs where it's 112 degrees.
My goodness, I love Palm Springs.
I know, it's just ridiculously hot out here.
People come on sometimes after the fact or during. I'll keep checking to see about messages. But in the meantime, you're in Palm Springs.
Yes.
And like, I want to touch on something because it's touched all of us. We've made it through a pandemic.
Yeah.
Mostly, hopefully, whatever.
Yeah.
How did that affect your life, friends, family?
It did. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated and all that kind of stuff. And I got COVID in August 2020, already having gotten the 2 vaccinations before the boosters came out. I had a very mild case of it. And then I got that stuff they gave Trump, the Regeneron. I hate to say his name, but the Regeneron, they gave me that monoclonal infusion therapy that worked great. And I've since had the 2 boosters. Where it really hurt was in terms of business. Because, I worked with Barry Manilow for the last zillion years, and we literally had to cancel 18 months worth of shows because, everything was shut down.
Yeah.
And, not just financially, I mean, it's what you do for a living. It's who you're in this business. It's kind of who you are. And I mean, fortunately, I was working on other stuff with Melissa Rivers. We were working on a book, but still that part of my life kind of vanished for a year and a half. And, the great thing for me, one of the greatest things I've always enjoyed about comedy is just bouncing off other comedy people, just talking and being together and doing like we're doing.
Yes.
And that went away.
Yeah.
And that was the hard part.
Yes. And you're right. It becomes part of our identity. And when you get your identity ripped away, or the powers that be say that we're not essential.
Oh, I disagree. It's funny. In times of budget crisis in schools, the first thing they do is they cut the arts programs. Now, they don't cut sports because sports generates revenue for them. But if you think about comedy or music or theater, any of it, you're entertaining people, you're making them feel better, and you're communicating with them about different things. And if we can do it through humor, even better.
Yeah.
But you take that away, and it is essential for a happy life.
I would have never learned anything in school if I wouldn't have had a few teachers, that thought that sprinkling a little humor might help. I would have never learned anything.
No, I agree. Yeah. Other than maybe Dick Cheney, I don't know anyone who doesn't like to laugh. Although it's funny, I worked on 2 roasts with Donald Trump. He was completely humorless. He was very pleasant. He came in and said hi and was nice enough to everybody. Doesn't get the jokes, just kind of sits there. It's not like when he says to somebody, "Oh, I was joking," he doesn't have a sense of humor. So I don't know how he's joking. He's humorless. It's very strange. Normally at the end of like a roast, right? You always see whatever, even on Comedy Central, the person who's being roasted comes up for the final remarks. He had no remarks. He just said thank you and held the trophy and left.
Oh my goodness.
He didn't say a word.
Oh my goodness. That guy, oh my gosh. I hate to be political, but boy, did he give us a lot of comedy.
If it wasn't for him, I mean, Obama was boring, had a lovely wife and 2 nice children. There was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Then we had 4 Years of Crazy, which is certainly comedically interesting. I mean, you can't say anything about Malia or Sasha, but you look at the three, those three idiots. It's like, oh my God, this is fantastic. It's
Oh my
fantastic.
gosh. I remember, having the president of color who we'd all like to go have a beer with, who, and then the Bushes who I swear that they created the Bush beer.
Here's the thing. They always say, well, you want to have a beer with them. Well, you're not going to, so why is that really a factor? President Bush wasn't going to pick up a phone and say, hey, Linda, you want to have lunch? He doesn't know you. That's not how it works. Difference does it make? Do your job.
Who in their who in their right mind wants to be taking puck shots from the entire globe for 400,000 a year?
Not me, honey. There's a reason I got off stage. I give you credit. I'm too thin-skinned for that. I don't know how they do it.
How did you, I gotta know, look, a lot of us comics really would prefer doing the writing and not the performing.
Right.
And you've been able to do that.
I started, I had a real job. I was working, doing marketing and publicity writing for an architect in New York. I have a degree in journalism. And I was just bored. It wasn't a bad job. I just got on the subway and I was like, oh God, I have to go to work again. And a friend of mine, a girl named Devin I went to college with, she said she was going to take a stand-up comedy writing class. I said, yes. So we took it together and it was fun. It was taught by I hate to say Catskills comedian, but a guy named Dick Lord, who was wonderful.
I've met him.
He died a couple of years ago, but Dick was great.
Yeah.
So he ran this comedy class. It was like 1980 or 81, something like that. And we took this class, and the last class you had to get up and perform. And I had no performance skills. I'd never been in front of an audience, but the material was good. So I did fine. And then Devin said, let's go audition to Catch a Rising Star. And we had another friend named Gail who joined us. And the way it used to work in those days, Catch a Rising Star was the big hot comedy club in New York. And on Mondays, all the kids who wanted to try out, they'd line up at 6 a.m. And around 10 o'clock, the club manager would come and hand out a bunch of numbers. Not everybody got a number. There'd be 50 people that hand out 10 numbers. I got lucky. I got number 3. I got a number that was number 3, which means they're going to mix you into the rotation of comedians that night. And those days, the comedians were Jerry Seinfeld. They were famous already, So I got this. I went and I put together my little 6-minute routine, and I auditioned, and I killed. I just got very fortunate. No idea what I was doing. But it worked, whatever it was. And the MC who was, she passed away a couple of years ago, was Adrienne Tolch, who was wonderful. One of the funniest comics, opened the door for a lot of female comics and women in New York. And she was the MC that night, and she passed me. And so I don't know what it's like now, but you start hanging out at the clubs, and you go on at 2 a.m. and there's 3 drunks and some guy sleeping. And then as you move along, you start getting better spots, and you learn how to do it. That's what I did. And I just caught a couple of breaks on the way.
Well, look at all the things you've accomplished, writing and producing just the roasts you've done, the celebs you've written for. Nice.
Here's the thing. Whenever I think about it, and the resume it's a pretty solid resume. But this is sounding like a terrible name drop, and it is. But I worked with Barry Manilow and Jane Fonda and Rosie O'Donnell and on high end Joy Behar, all these people, and they call me and they're like my friends, and I'm like, I'm some schmuck from Brooklyn. How did this happen? And it's not a matter of being famous. I never had any interest in that. I get to work with really talented, smart people. Yeah. You're doing comedy. What's better than sitting around bullshitting with a bunch of comedians?
Nothing.
Isn't it? What's it like now in the clubs? Because it's been so many years. Is it still like that?
It's still delightful. You have a lot of comedians that are, let's call them millennial comedians or millennial minded. Like
Okay.
So this is the first time I'm going on stage. Now, how long till I get a Netflix special? You get those.
Right.
And then you get the others like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to be this much work. And they get
Right. Right. You know, I got lucky back in the day. I was doing stand up for about maybe 8 months, 6, 8 months, and I got an HBO Young Comedian special. I had no idea. I mean, there was a guy who came in, a guy named Flip Connell, who was working for HBO, putting this show together. And all of a sudden, they called and they wanted me. I had no idea. I had 20 minutes of material. I'm going to burn 7 of it on television. So I had no idea what I was doing. And Alan King was the host, and Alan King was one of my idols. You know, it's like, oh my God, Alan King.
my idol. He's
He was
mine.
unbelievable. Grew up watching on Ed Sullivan, right? And he's the host of the show, and it was Stephen Wright, and it was wonderful. And in those days, this is before cable. I mean, we didn't even have cable. HBO was like the beginning of it, right? They'd send you out on the road. There was no TV deals. This is before Roseanne and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm being sent out on the road to headlining clubs with 40. I had to do 45 minutes, and I had 10 minutes of material. I was like, oh, you learn fast. You learn quickly on the fly. But it was exciting. I'd never done anything like that in my life. It was interesting. So Netflix now, there's so many, avenues to be seen. I'll go on YouTube, and they have this thing called Dry Bar Comedy that I look at. I laugh all the time. There's so many great, and of different ages and none of that matters anymore.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
So Dry Bar is owned by Keith Stubbs out of Utah, and he owns all the Wise Guys. And
Really?
they opened Wise Guys here in Vegas, and that's my home club. I'm there every Tuesday and Wednesday when I'm in town.
Oh, fantastic. Next time I'm in town, we have a layover or something. We're not just flying in and out. I'll definitely come down there because the Dry Bar stuff is great.
Yes.
Really funny people.
Yes. This particular club doesn't adhere to we're going to be real clean
I don't care.
but still you get a lot of people, legends popping in and up and comers, and
wow.
You can get, like, I hosted one night at Dry Bar a couple times, but I hosted one night, there was 53 comics, 3-4 hours of comedy for $5 fee.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. What a great evening.
Yeah.
What a great,
you've got a great audience. Oh my gosh.
Well, comedically, that's got to be a thrill. Yeah. And if you're in the audience, okay, nobody's going to like all 53 people, but there's got to be somebody who's going to make you laugh.
Yes.
If you're sitting there watching 53 comics and you don't laugh, the problem is you. What are the odds? No one's funny, right? What are the odds?
It's so funny how audience, isn't it weird how comedy is so subjective, and what tickles one person doesn't tickle another, and that's what keeps the artists interested in their craft.
I've always had this kind of, I think it's kind of a self-righteous thing in a way. It really is, because there are a lot of comics that I don't find funny. I'm sure there's comics you don't find funny. It doesn't appeal to your taste. But I can see why the audience likes them.
Yeah.
And that's a division for me. I can say, okay, I don't like this, but I know why they're laughing. What I have trouble with is the comics where I have no idea where they're laughing. I mean, there's just nothing funny here. And that kind of freaks me out. It's just not funny.
I went to a show, and it was, young people doing young people things. And I was sitting there going, don't give away that you don't get it. Like, I was just
right. You don't want to look like the toad in the middle of the room. It's funny. We talk about performance skills and how things have changed. And, when I started out, I mean, you didn't dress up, but performing didn't mean just looking like a slob and wandering around the stage and facing backwards and being ironic.
Yes.
You actually had to have jokes somewhere, even stories. I had to have some kind of a punch somewhere.
Yes.
Reading your list of chores for the day isn't amusing.
No.
It's just not. So I think styles change. I've been watching a lot lately of George Carlin on YouTube, who was just, and talk about funny and saying something. And in the times we're in now, I keep saying, I wish George was still here. Because the stuff he was talking about in the last couple of years, like 2005, 2006, are just as valid now.
They are.
All the things he's talking about, it's spot on. So I encourage
No,
everybody, check it out.
we need George Carlin right now just to cope.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you get some of it from Trevor Noah or Jon Stewart if he does it, and Lewis Black when he's out there working. But George was something else, and I kind of missed that. And I got lucky. I only met George once. We were going. My manager and his manager set up a meeting in New York about a project that never went anywhere. But it was the day the space shuttle exploded. Was the meeting. And I met him at his hotel at like 2:00 in the afternoon. And he said, we're introduced. He goes, "How are you?" And I thought I'd take a gamble. I said, "I'm a little upset. The shuttle." He goes, "Yeah." I said, it preempted all of my favorite shows." He goes, "I'm just glad the teacher got it." I go, "All right, we're going to get along just fine." It's like when you're with somebody who's funny, give it a shot. What's going to happen? The day I met Joan Rivers, I'd written for her early on, but I never met her. It was all just facts and jokes. I'll send you a check, that kind of thing. So I was working on the Mark Twain Prize. It was the year George got it posthumously because he had died earlier in the year. And she needed a writer. So she comes in. I'd never met her. She knew who my name was, but she the first thing she said to me, she goes, "What makes you laugh?" And I said, "The folly of the Holocaust." She said, "Give me your phone number." It was great. And so we're talking on the phone the next day. We did great. She did great on the show. And we're on the phone talking. And she goes, I want to write with you. I said, "Great." I said, "Are there any boundaries?" She goes, "No." I said, "What about Edgar's suicide?" She goes, "I had 20 new minutes before they closed the box." I mean, how do you not want to work with that? How do you not want to work with Joan Rivers? I mean, really?
I wish I could have met her. I just adore her.
Oh, man. Not what you would think watching her on TV.
Yes.
She was sweet and kind and generous and loving and classy. She'll do the potty mouth grandma on Fashion Police, or she'll do her stand-up act and it's all little blue here and there. Nothing like that. No, she walks around the house in Chanel. It's like she doesn't cook, but if you would come over, if she had just met you, "Are you hungry, Linda? Let me get you something." She'd have lunch in front of you in 5 minutes. She traveled around with like this bag. Women have big bags. I don't know what it is.
I have mine right here.
She'd have all these trinkets from the QVC. She'd have scarves and pins. And restaurants, she hands it to people. She goes to the waiters. She was great.
I heard she does that. That's so great.
Yeah. She was one of the nicest. And what's interesting is, now I do a lot of work with Melissa, who is as nice and sweet and smart as her mother was. And funny in a different way, very funny in a different way. More
so
sardonic.
Different. So
very different. But Melissa, people don't know her. They don't know who she really is. They only see little snippets of her. She's fantastic.
Wow.
She's, you can tell she's Joan's daughter. She raised her right.
And how is Joan's grandson or Melissa's son doing?
He's great. He's in college. Is he 21? I think he's 21, 20. Cooper's fantastic. Smart, nice, handsome, great kid.
Is he going to be a comedian?
I don't think he has any interest whatsoever.
Okay.
I would doubt that. But Melissa, as good she's a great mother. As good as she's a producer and writer and all that, she's a great mother. Joan, as Joan, even in that crazy world of show business we live in, where we're traveling and we're in Vegas, created as much a normal childhood as she could for Melissa. She and her they raised them right. They raised her right. And Melissa's doing the same. She's raising them right.
That's fabulous.
It is fabulous.
I want to hear about Carol Burnett. I
met her once. I was working on the Joy Behar show as a senior writer, and Carol was coming on to promote something. And I'd never met Carol. And how do you not love Carol Burnett, right? And Carol Burnett is everything you would want Carol Burnett to be. Sweet, funny, open, kind. And, on her show, I'm going to take a drink of coffee. Hold
on. I will too.
Oh, good. On the Carol Burnett show, all the musical comedy sketches were written by Ken and Mitzi Welch. Now they've since passed. Ken and Mitzi I met because they were doing a lot of sketch work for Barry Manilow's shows. So in my early years with Barry, I was brought in for one thing and they were doing all the musical stuff. So we got to become friends, even though they were much older than I was. But so when I met Carol, I mentioned Ken and Mitzi Welch. We had a lovely opening conversation. And I told her one of the things that made me want to go into comedy, and it's the absolute truth. Carol used to do this sketch called As the Stomach Turns. It was a soap opera, like a bad soap opera. And it was always, she played this suburban woman in whatever town it was. And every show there would be a knock at the door, and she'd open the door, and oh look, it's the town bum. And it was always some of the actors. In one of them, it was her, oh, it's my long lost daughter and her baby. And the daughter hands Carol the baby, and Carol drops the baby in the umbrella stand and walks into the room. Now, to me, this is where I figured I had something different going on. Most people laugh at the fact that she dropped the baby in the umbrella stand. I laughed because she did it cavalierly, like she didn't give a shit. She's just dropping the baby like it's a routine thing. And that's what we talked about. I said, it was the moment after you dropped the baby in the umbrella stand. That's the funny part, that you continued moving. She goes, yeah, that's the joke. The joke isn't the baby in the umbrella stand. The joke is she kept on going. Like it didn't bother her.
Wow.
It's that kind of thing.
Now that's kind of a lesson for us comedians when we're doing an act out. We think that the funny part is there. It could actually be something right after.
Yeah. I think one of the greatest things two great things I really learned. Mm-hmm. One of them, because I did a lot of emceeing back in the day at Catch Rising Star, and I don't have a whole lot of self-esteem, but I'm telling you, I was good at it.
Don't you love to MC?
I was great. In my heyday, I was really, really good. The best skill you have is listening. Not just to individuals, listen to the room. Listen. And when you do that, you'll find a lot of times the laugh is in the silence. Not jokes done. It's that moment. What's in there where you can really feel it. It's like
explain that.
I would say something. Let's say during the course of an evening, and you're emceeing whatever, and you're building, and you come back to a couple of references, and all of a sudden you find a piece of gold in the audience. You find something, and I would just stop, and I'd look at the rest of the audience, and they knew where I was going because I'd already established the pattern, and I didn't have to say a word. There was a night early on. I don't know why I remember this. It was at Caroline's when it first opened down on 8th Avenue, not the beautiful location now on Broadway. It was this cozy little place in Chelsea. And the stage was in a corner, and it was kind of set up, like an L. And there were banquettes along one wall. And there was a guy sitting there. He must have weighed 5,000 pounds. I've never seen a bigger human being. I mean, he's just dwarfing the wall. You could see him across the block. You couldn't not see this guy. And he's sitting right next to the stage. So I'm spritzing, I'm doing what I'm doing. And I was trying to get into a bit about going to therapy because I've been in therapy for like a zillion years. And I said, is anyone here in therapy? And he puts his hands up. Now, obviously, we know why he's in therapy. So I just said, money problems? I never went near fat, never went to it. Never went to where it should have been going. We know why you're in therapy. So I just went to a different direction. And it was one of those things where it's like, I felt like, yeah, that's good. That's good. You didn't hurt the guy's feelings. You played along with him, and you took the zip right out of the room.
Yes.
You took the meanness out. So
yeah, there's a lot of them, like going after what's easy. Sometimes it hurts people's feelings, and it gets laughs, but they're cheap laughs.
They can be, I in the beginning, I did a number of the roasts at the Friars Club and a couple of Comedy Central. And, Jeff Ross is the roast master. There's nobody better than Jeff Ross. And I'm not talking about Jeff, I'm talking about kind of other people involved. Mm-hmm. You cross a line between funny and mean. And edgy and mean aren't the same thing. You can, if someone has a reputation for being like she sleeps with everybody, you can do a couple of great whore jokes without hurting her feelings. Make it a smart joke. They kind of got mean.
Yes.
They kind of got very, very mean. And when I started, I'm working on the roast, all these great guys at the Friars Club, and it was a different kind of art form. No, but I don't think anybody's ever written roast better than Jeff Ross. He's extraordinary. He goes farther than I would go, but his joke writing is so spectacular. There was a thing where all right, an example. I don't know if this is germane. During the last year or two of Fashion Police, the show had gone, just for me, it had gone kind of dirty. It was becoming a lot of vagina jokes, and it was just getting kind of not what I like to write.
Yeah.
I can write filthy with anybody, but it's not where my brain kind of goes. So they wanted to do a thing about her, about how her vagina was so dry. My vagina is so dry. So I wrote a joke that they changed slightly, that it's so dry, Peter O'Toole could ride a camel across it. Now it's a Lawrence of Arabian desert joke, but it doesn't feel like a vagina joke because it takes your head away from that. It's just a smarter way to get to it.
I love that.
It's like I wrote a thing for her. We were literally filming something on the beach in Santa Monica for one of the reality shows. And we were on our lunch break. And something popped up about Woody Allen and Mia Farrow, popped up on our little news feed on our phone. And Joan said, how did Mia Farrow not know? And I just said, of course she knew. She caught him jerking off the Flower Drum song. Now, it's a great joke, but it's not mean. And it doesn't feel really dirty.
Yes.
And that's just the way my brain works. Yeah, technically it's a dirty joke.
Yes.
Plus, it's really not. How did she not know? Bum.
Yes. And you had said that you have jokes about the Holocaust. My parents went through the Holocaust, and I have more jokes about the Holocaust.
Me too. Yeah. Well, everybody Jewish has family members who went through it. I mean, God, I wrote a whole thing about, in Joan's books, we had a whole thing on Anne Frank. Oh my God. That she was such a whiner. It's like, I have to go to Auschwitz. No, you get to go to Auschwitz. Turn that frown upside down. We did a thing called "What's the most underrated concentration camp and why?" Awful stuff. And in the last book I wrote with Melissa, we wrote a thing. It's out now, by the way. So tell people, it's called "Lies My Mother Told Me."
Okay.
Tall Tales from a Short Woman, and it's wonderful. It's really funny. And Melissa and I write together. I'm telling you, it is just like you and I are talking now. It's just bam. It's just great. And we have a thing in there about how Anne Frank, they got found out because she loved dancing. And everybody else is shushing around and walking in socks. And she's, gotta dance. She's bouncing around tapping. And it's her own goddamn fault they caught her. It's just awful. And we had a thing with Joan that talked about, she doesn't know why Anne Frank couldn't put on a little rouge. She had plenty of time. They're not busy. Throw on a little blush. Who's that going to hurt? You take it to the level of absurdity.
Yes.
So it's not really hurtful. It's just absurd.
Absurd, silly, and
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, absurd.
You kind of turn something like that into a cartoon. You're not making fun of the situation. It's the absurdity of the whole thing.
Yes. I think that one absurd thing that I think about is we're lucky that Anne Frank didn't happen with a computer and Facebook and like, worse than Trump.
She'll have an emoji. No, exactly. And so, it says, I don't know, I had a thing today when I just saw that Ivana Trump died. My first thought was, well, now she doesn't have to testify. I wonder if I was Marla, I'd be careful. I'd be careful.
Well, yesterday we had something happen that hasn't fully developed in the news yet, but Trump's first wife was found at the bottom of the stairs. Where's Joan Rivers when we need her?
Oh, and she would be all over this. She would be all over this. Yeah, she's down at the bottom of the stairs. Yes, she fell. She lived for 45 years. Missed a step. Oops. Oops.
Oh my gosh.
I'm telling you, Marla, Melania, watch your back, get your insurance. Sounds terrible, but
So you worked with the great Jane Fonda, who has a little bit of a tough past that she's had to overcome with some of the military. And she's done a good job of overcoming
yeah,
that whole scenario that
well,
people don't even know about.
no, they don't. And they still, they use the Hanoi Jane nonsense. Read her biography. It's called My Life in 3 Acts. If you read, yeah, read it. And she'll address the entire thing is laid out exactly what happened. And she was there in service to the military because she thought they were being sent to a war for no reason and they're being killed for no reason.
And they were.
They were. In hindsight, nobody's saying she was wrong. They should not have been there. There are troops, I mean, my dad was in the Navy in World War II, so I have, an abiding respect. And when the country calls, yes, the answer is yes, I get it. But to have politicians cavalierly making mistakes like that without, I remember when President Obama, they were talking about war, and he said, sending someone else's children into harm's way is the biggest decision you'll ever have to make.
Wow.
Yeah, you're sending other people's children into harm's way. Right now I'm going through this phase where at night, I watch all this World War II footage. I don't know what's going on. I do it all the time. So now I was watching this thing on Pearl Harbor the last couple of nights. And what you don't realize is most of these people are just out of high school. They're 18 and 19 and 20 years old. They're kids. I remember my dad was, served, and I see a picture of him that he was stationed in Guam. But he's like, his friends are like 21 years old. They're with the ROTC. They took a break from college. It's like, they're kids.
So many of them actually fabricated their age to serve.
Yeah. They talked about that in World War II. I was watching this. After Pearl Harbor, they wanted to come defend the country. They wanted to go get them. And thousands and thousands of young men, literally right out of high school, are signing up there's no draft. They just went. It's pretty powerful.
That happened right after 9/11 too, I think.
Oh my God. Where were you when that happened?
I had just lived in New York City and I had moved back to Oregon when that happened.
Really? Yeah. I was in New York at the time. And, of course, Joan said right away, she said, where were you on 9/11? I said, I was in New York. And she said, what were you thinking? I said, there's a lot of apartments available. She said, me too. There's got to be a 2-bedroom with a river view somewhere. And it's like, we had a thing in one of the books. Oh my God, I think it was I Hate Everyone, where it was a Diary of Mandeep. I can't remember which one it was. That she's talking about on November 22nd, 1963, when Kennedy was killed. Where were you? So, but I was having coffee with Lee Harvey Oswald, and all of a sudden he gets up and leaves. Because I was disgusted. He didn't even pick up the check. Oh my God. Oh, little dark side.
What is have these people that are out there that don't think that the Holocaust existed? How do you cope with that through humor?
I don't talk to them. Personally, I don't have anything to do with them. And I always have the philosophy that for the people who are doubters or all that kind of stuff, what are the odds that everyone in the world for the last 75 years is lying? What are the odds they're all making it up? This is all fake footage. What are the odds of that? It's like I saw the other night I was watching, I think maybe it was Rachel Maddow. I was watching one of those shows, and one of Donald Trump's attorneys, not Pat Cipollone, they were in the Oval Office in this room where they're all screaming and carrying on. And Sidney Powell, that crazy woman, starts talking about all the judges are corrupt. He's talking about the election has been stolen. And she said, and all the judges are corrupt. And the attorney, who's Trump's attorney, said, wait a minute, Sidney. He goes, all of them? Every judge in every place, most of whom we appointed, they're all crooked or lying. Really? Really? It's like they trash Dr. Fauci. Yes, that's right. He spent 6 years in medicine to fool you. That was the goal. Dupe a hillbilly. Really?
So I was, thinking in a bubble about how to come up with a joke about Holocaust deniers. And so I came up with this thing like, I don't hate you if you deny the Holocaust. But my parents went through it, but it doesn't do me any good to hate you just because you have that opinion. But what I have to say is, like, I'll say to someone in the audience, say to me that the Holocaust never existed. And they say, the Holocaust. Oh, you think I'm talking about that Holocaust? No, I'm talking about the one that did exist. It's like my way of saying to you.
Fantastic. I tell people, like, when you hear about all these people denying this and denying the vaccines and everything, these are the people who took medical advice from a pillow salesman. All you have to know. Dr. Fauci, Mike Lindell, and My Pillow. And they're taking their medical advice from him. Okay. That's all you need to know who you're talking to.
Oh my gosh.
You can't fix stupid. All you can do is walk away from it.
That's right. That's right. Who and what in your life has touched you so much you'll never forget it?
There's a couple. I think the night Adrian Tolsch passed me at Catch a Rising Star. She was my comedy muse and my best friend. And she died. Her husband, Bill Sheft, was one of the head writers at Letterman for 25 years. We're best friends. Adrian changed my world. A friend of mine, you mean just showbiz related?
Anything in your life at all?
A woman named CJ, who lives in North Carolina now, helped save my life when I was in a dark spot. And getting to work with all these great people, getting to work with Barry Manilow, getting to work with Joy and Joan and Rosie and Jane Fonda, it's a thrill. It's a thrill because I don't know anybody, and I don't know you obviously well. I don't know any comic that doesn't have some sense of insecurity or fear or self-loathing somewhere down the food chain.
All the time.
Right, all the time. I don't care how successful you are, it's there. And when I have those days, I just have to say to myself, wait a minute. People like Joan and Jane and Barry think I'm valuable. What are the odds they're all wrong? I must have something valuable to somebody. And I feel better when that comes. When those days where, you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good thing to remember.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, I've been doing this a long time, and that I'm still viable and still working and still having fun. I mean, with Barry, we just got back from a 2-week tour of England, of the UK, all over the place. And here's what's amazing. He's never been better. I mean, it's extraordinary. You'll come, when we're in Vegas, you'll come. You cannot believe, he just turned 79. He sings better than he's ever sung. The shows are, no one knows how he's doing this. It's not like he's the hardest worker I've ever met in my life. I've never seen anyone work like this. But it just says, anything's possible. And it's really remarkable. It's wow. And I get to be a part of that. So England was, every night is standing ovations, and we're traveling around on this great bus. And we're just, we're driving from Cardiff to Glasgow and just having a fine time. And the shows were great. And here I am all these years later, and I'm still getting to do this,
That's incredible.
I get to talk to you. I just met you, having a lovely time. Who else is having a day like this?
That's right.
I'm having a good day.
Like Joy Behar. Oh my God. She's such a loose cannon, her and Whoopi.
She's fantastic.
I love that.
I've been friends with Joy. Lord. She and Susie Essman are two of my best friends. They came in to Catch together. I met them in, I guess, 1983. We've all been really, really close. It's like, oh, I should say my picture. I had a picture of Joy and Susie and I in a restaurant, all looking at our phones, not paying attention to each other at all. No, they're like family. They're like family. I mean,
What do you have to say to young comics coming up in the business? Like, I've been in it 8 years. Some people are just starting that are going to watch this. And here you are, a legend in the business, worked with legends. What kind of advice do you have from all your experience?
pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Because I didn't know that when I was there. I was just having a good time most of the time. Watch what the other comics are doing when you're at the bar hanging out, or we used to hang out at the Green Kitchen restaurant late at night. Pay attention to what's going on. Read, be even if you're not doing a timely act that's about current events or anything. Be aware. Always be aware. It's like we always say, read the room. The world is your room. Read the room.
Wow.
Pay attention.
Whoa.
Read the room. Yeah.
That just blew my mind, what you just said.
Well, if you think about it, if you're going to be on TV or on streaming or something like that, or on YouTube or TikTok, whatever it's going to be, you need to know the world. You need to know who you're talking to and what's going on in their world. You have your own comedic take. You make it look. We sat here talking about the Holocaust. We had 1 million laughs. Okay, fine, but be aware of what's going on out there.
Got it.
So I would say pay attention. And I used to literally try to hang out with comics who were successful. I don't mean big famous people like I'm a star fucker. I mean, I'd hang out with the comics and watch what they were doing. One of my dear friends is Rita Rudner, who it turns out they have a house out here. And I've known Rita for, 40 years. I've never seen a comic work harder than that in my life, as Rita Rudner did. Every day, writing, she would come from club to club doing her material. And she's brilliant and lovely and beyond successful. And she and her husband have a fabulous daughter. And pay attention to people who do that. I mean, Ray Romano worked harder than anybody I've seen. I was emceeing at Catch when he came in, and he would literally do 9 clubs in a night. And he's nudging, I got to get on, I got a spot over here. But boy, oh boy, paid off.
You just did an impression of Ray Romano. I heard his voice.
Oh, really? And here's the great thing. He and I were in acting class together. There's a wonderful acting teacher in New York for comedy named Joanna Bexon. She's fantastic. All the comic actors studied with her. And I was in the class with Ray Romano. I was terrible. He was not. I always thought, then I took acting classes at the neighborhood playhouse. Again, I was terrible. I thought I'd be good. I sucked. Oh man, I got you. It's like if I could write it, I could do it. But I could turn, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and get laughs out of it, and you're not supposed to. I just couldn't get out of myself. But then you watch someone else who was able to do it. It's a whole nother art form that I have no aptitude for.
Yeah. I try to do an act out, and I'm not there yet, I
always say try it for a while, and the audience will let you know if it's working or not. And you'll internally, did you ever have one of those nights where you feel off? You're not really, your timing's off, something's not right, but the audience, you're killing, right? They don't know something's wrong. Then there are the nights when you're really in the zone and they're sitting there like a bunch of, drives me crazy. It's like, I'm really good tonight, guys. You're just not picking up on it, and it's like, there's the thing you'll always hear, like, every performer I've ever met has the same experience. You're on stage, let's say there's 500 people, 5,000 people, it doesn't matter. And 499 of those 500 people are having a good time. The only one you notice is this. The one for Schlump who won't smile.
Yeah.
And that's the only one you're playing to now. And it becomes your point to get that kind of laugh. Even though everyone else is having a great time. That's what you see.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely so. That's my take.
What's the biggest mistake you made in your career?
Oh, good Lord. I don't know if it's a mistake. when all the young comics that I was starting with moved to LA to try to get writing jobs, my father was ill. That was the excuse I told myself. My father was sick, he had a bad heart. And I didn't want to leave because I was still very tied to my family at that time. So I stayed in New York, become like the big fish in the little pond. When all my friends moved to California, put in their dues. And they were all working on TV shows. They were working on the Golden Girls and this, that, and the other thing. And I was in New York. And in hindsight, I probably should have made the move. But then again, I also believe you're where you're supposed to be and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I guess it worked out just fine. I always said, geez, had I moved in 1983 or 84 when they were all leaving, but my dad died in 85, I stayed. I felt an obligation to my family, so I didn't go.
Yeah.
Was it a mistake? Career-wise, probably. But I don't know that.
Your most proud moment. Have we covered that? I don't think we really have.
Proud moment. Wow. In my life or in show business?
Both. Let's go both.
Well, let's see. They both involve my grandmother.
What's that?
They both involve my grandmother,
Okay.
who was like my savior, my hero.
Okay.
When I got this HBO Young Comedian special, when I was only in the business 8 months, they filmed two episodes, 2 shows at Catch a Rising Star, and she was there. And I could see, there's a little face. The other thing, and this has nothing to do with my career show business. Had an apartment, my first apartment. I was living in Brooklyn, and had a regular job. And my grandfather got very sick. He had colon cancer, and I gave up my apartment, gave up the job, moved back into my mother's house, who lived near my grandmother. And for almost that entire year, he was in and out of Mount Sinai Hospital. They lived on Long Island. I'd get up in the morning and drive her into Mount Sinai Hospital and spend the day, and then drive her home. And I did that until he died. And it was about 8, 9, 10 months that went on. And I just look at that. In one hand, you'd say, geez, that's kind of a lost year. It's the best year of my life. You can't get that back.
No.
I just think I'll never forget this, their last anniversary, they were married 47 years. And he's in the hospital. He's very ill. He's dying of cancer. And I had asked the nurses if I could bring an anniversary cake in because there's oxygen in the room. He needed permission. So I'll never forget, he and my grandmother were sitting on chairs against the wall holding hands, and the entire nursing staff came in, and we all sang happy anniversary to them. And that's the moment I'm most proud of.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Can I tell you what happened when I met Rita Rudner?
Tell me.
So I have a sister and a brother-in-law in Laguna.
I used to live there.
You did?
Yeah, I'll tell you about that afterwards. Go ahead.
So every December 31st, she does the show at the Laguna Playhouse at midnight, till midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew she was going to be there, and my sister and brother-in-law are ushers there. So I wrote her on Facebook and I said, I have a gift for you, a gift basket. Where can I meet you? And she told me. Now, when you say gift basket, people are expecting you to have to come in juggling something awkward. Well, what I do is I go to Goodwill and I find a little glass, ceramic, metal gift basket, and I put a piece of chocolate in it and wrap it. And
That's
so
adorable.
I go, she told me where to meet her, and I said, hi, Rita. And I said, here's the gift basket. And her eyes went to focusing. And I said, but it's what's in the gift basket. There's some chocolate in it. And she says, oh. And I said, it's Godiva. But for you, it's Go Diva. Because can I have that line? I'm like, have it, please take it.
It's great. Go Diva. That's great. That's hilarious. That's wonderful.
That was
Rita and I knew each other in New York back in the early 80s. And then she lived in LA, we move around. About 15 years ago, I guess, I'm living in Laguna Niguel. And I go into the pet store and I'm talking to the cashier about something or other. And what do you do? She's just chattering. And she goes, well, I said, oh, I'm a comedy writer. And she goes, oh, do you know Rita Rudner? I said, well, yeah, she's an old friend of mine. I said, why? She goes, well, she shops here. She lives right around here. I said, sir, I've been out of touch with her for a number of years. I haven't seen her in a while. I said, do me a favor. Next time she comes in, give her my name. Here's my number. 2 days later, Larry, Rita, come for dinner. We're in Dana Point.
Yeah.
And we've become best buddies again. I mean, the first time I ever did the Edinburgh Festival, I did it with Rita in 1984. And that's where she met her husband, who was producing the show. So she and Martin are still married. And we're all friends all these years later. I spoke to her yesterday. She's great.
Oh my gosh. When I started going into comedy at age 63,
Good for you. Good for you.
I make all the right choices. And when I started, I didn't know, like, what am I going to be like? Who am I, like, what's a good style? Like mostly men. I'm not going to be like them. So I looked up women and I ran across her and Wendy Liebman. And those have been my two heroes.
Wendy's as nice as you would think she is. She's a sweetheart. Do you know Wendy at all?
She's come on 2 of my Zoom military
she's
shows.
Great and really funny. When I first time I saw her, and everything is always under her breath, that little back cell she does, fantastic. So unique, so wonderful.
Yeah, so Wendy.
Great. Yeah, she's great. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're never too old to do this. That's the thing. Funny is funny. It doesn't matter.
Thank you.
It makes no difference. If you can make people laugh, you can make people laugh. Do it. It's a gift, and it's kind of your obligation.
Yes.
If you've been given a talent that can make people smile, it's incumbent upon you to do it.
It's really fun trying to stay current so that, like, it'd be easy for me just to go to nursing homes and make people my age laugh. But the challenge is how to relate to all the different age groups.
And you can. I always figure if it makes me laugh, it's going to make somebody else laugh. Now, I may do a reference they may not understand. They always say you have to dumb it down. I don't really believe in that. It's not my job to tell you to read a book.
Totally.
Yeah, it's not my job. They go, well, they're not going to know who Lee Harvey Oswald is. I said, not my problem.
Exactly.
Not my problem. Read, learn. I'll never forget my kid brother, years and years and years ago. We were at my mother's house, and he was still in high school. And I mentioned something about Charles Dickens. I don't know what it was. And he goes, who's that? And I explained who Charles Dickens was. He goes, oh, I never heard of him. I said, they didn't teach you Charles Dickens in school? No. You never heard the name? No. He goes, it was before my time. I said, the cavemen were before my time, but I know about it. You can read. And you realize they're not teaching them anything.
Yes. It's really gotten bad.
Yeah.
And then they're going in and try to remove things out of history.
Oh, please.
Don't even get me started.
It was like, Auschwitz was a summer camp. We're going to have volleyball right after the ovens. Jeez. I don't know. I'm getting old.
You're delightful. And I think
Thank
I
you.
might have worn out my welcome with you. So I thought it's a good place to stop the interview.
This was great. We are back in Vegas in September. You have my number. We'll reach out. You'll come say hello and see the show.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I had a great time.
It's my joy to have you. Thank you so much. Love you. Bye, Gladys.
Bye, Gladys. Tell Gladys, say hello for me.
I forgot to see if anybody wanted to ask you a question. Just one little quick second. I know I said goodbye, and here I am taking it back, but if Gladys has asked a question, I'll die. 5 comments. Jeff Richards from Saturday Night Live says hello.
Hello.
Adrian was so funny, Gladys says.
Yep.
Do one of your favorite bits, she says.
Oh God, I couldn't even remember it.
Okay, well, she'll forgive you. You did a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Larry.
Bye.
Bye.